Hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining me here today. If you found this video, you most likely already follow me on some kind of social media platform and you're just here to hype me up, in which I say, thank you very much, I appreciate that. Or you're considering starting a spicy page to sell adult content. You've most likely discovered these platforms due to content creators you follow talking about how there's money to be made on these sites or how great it all is. And I'd like to take a step back and talk about some things that you should consider before diving into it or considering if this is the right choice for you. A lot of those people will make it seem like there's just really easy money to be made here and there's no downsides. But unfortunately, that's not the case, and that's a bit of a marketing technique to make it seem like they're very successful, so people who aren't subscribed feel like they're missing out, and then they subscribe. It's just, like I said, it's all marketing. So if you are considering making a page like this, I hope you listen to these considerations and see if this is the right fit for you. And if it is, I'll also post some tips and tricks and how I've been somewhat successful at it. First and foremost, I'd like to say, if you sell sexual content, even if it's lewds or you think you're not doing as much as everyone else, you are a sex worker and you now have to bear the stigma that comes with being a sex worker. And unfortunately, this may affect you in ways that you don't anticipate. This can include your bank closing your account, PayPal fining you money or taking away money you've already made if they suspect it's been made through sexual content. You may struggle to find housing or be denied. You may even lose your employment. And governments will make it so you can't operate freely and safely while also telling you they're doing this for your own good. It's very frustrating. And unfortunately, you'll be sitting there saying, everything that I'm doing is legal. Nothing is against the law. So why is it being treated as if it's not? And I don't have the answer for you. I do believe it comes from religious stigma, from horophobia, from sexism and misogyny. There are so many things that go into it that there's not one direct answer other than it fucking sucks. But the more people who take up the mantle of sex worker, the more shoulders are to carry this burden. I personally, when starting my charity, I was found out that I sell booty pics to fund it. And I was told to safeguard the charity, which I created, which has been my dream, against myself. And I had to stand up for myself. I told them that our reputation will not be jeopardized by the inclusiveness of sex work. It's in fact strengthened because we will not discriminate against anybody, but you have to stand up for yourself, and there's going to be many times that you'll have to stand your ground. So let's look at some things that you may want to consider before you start this. Firstly, how comfortable would you be if people you knew found out? This could include family, this could include friends, this could include coworkers. There is always a risk of people finding it. And the more you hide it, the more that stress will accumulate on you, and you will always be worried about people finding what you're doing. While there are ways to minimize this, unfortunately, you do have to market yourself to bring in clientele. Not a lot of these platforms will market you on site, so you must use Instagram and Twitter and Reddit and Snapchat and TikTok, things where you do not really control who sees your content, and one day it may show it to someone who you don't want to find you. There are a lot of people ask me, can I wear a mask or not show my face? You are more than entitled to do that. This is your content. You are in control here, but you are very much limiting yourself and adding your name to just a list of bodies on the internet. A lot of people will not subscribe because they're sexually attracted to you. They'll more subscribe because they are interested in you and who you are, and they feel some kind of connection. They want to talk to you more. Sexual attraction is just a small part of it, and by just being a body, you're really limiting yourself, but it is doable. And unfortunately, as doable as it is, there is still the risk that someone will find you. And the more that you try to hide it, the wrong person finds it, that's more power to them. And there are people that have been exploited by people, I'm just going to say the word, blackmailing them into things that they may not be comfortable with because they now have that power. So please keep that in mind. Secondly, will this cost you your job? And I'm not just speaking about now, I'm talking about in the future as well. So please take a second to sit with yourself and say, who do I want to be? What do I want to do? Do I want to work in a government sector, or do I want to work with vulnerable adults, or anything of the sorts where this may hinder you? Because it sure sounds like easy money now, but if you're really sabotaging yourself in the future, maybe think about if this is the right choice. Unfortunately, when they say anything that you put on the internet is forever, it's not a joke. And things you put behind a paywall, you do have the right to copyright claim or DMCA if shared on the internet, but this takes a long time. You will not find everything. And people who screen grab to with the intent of putting it on other websites, they will have it for a very long time, and they will continue to do so. So even if you only do this for a little bit, those images you put out there is a risk that they will always be continuing to be out there, which is something you need to consider for future employment. How much time do you have to actively do this? Do you work full time? Do you study full time? Do you have the time to market yourself, create the content, to monitor these websites that you now produce content for? And unfortunately, when you first start these things, you will most likely not have a social media following. I didn't when I first started, and I had to build up a following on Reddit, followed by Instagram, followed by Twitter, and then TikTok, and only then was I able to be considered successful in this. And it does take a lot of time: the setup, the editing, the actual content creation, the speaking, the messaging, the customs that you have to make, especially in the beginning, because you do want that little bit of money. It does take a lot of time. A rough estimate of how much time I was spending on this was close to 12 hours a day sporadically throughout the day. And it's one of those things, since you're self-employed and you control the money that you make, you will continue to work yourself, because you will see the fruits grown from your labor much more quickly. You'll get those serotonin boosts when you get a subscriber, and you'll just keep doing this, and you'll keep checking your social medias and messaging people, not realizing that you're putting a lot of emotional effort into this, and you may not have that. You will easily find yourself very exhausted if you work a full-time job and then do this on the side. Not even just from the emotional aspect of worrying if people are going to find out, or now having to accept the stigma of being a sex worker if you're doing this openly, but just working followed by working, well, you do need that time to rest and have that downtime. And it may not be the most physically intensive labor, but it is quite hard. And my last little bit of consideration I want you to think about before you start this is, what are some realistic goals? You hear a lot of people speaking about all this money that they're making, and they're high earners or the top percents, but they mostly already had a social media following. Most people with big social media followings gravitate towards this kind of work because there is money to be made there, but they've put in the work to have those big followings. So unless you have 10,000 plus social media followers on any one website, you may not make a lot of money anytime soon. And if you come into this thinking that you're going to make big bank your first month or very quickly, and you don't, it is a bit of a demotivational hit to the gut kind of thing. So please keep your goals realistic. Think to yourself, I would like to make enough to pay this one bill within, my first couple months. That way, you set realistic goals for yourself. If you come in saying, I want to make 10 grand here and there, when you're just, no one knows, not in an insulting way, but how do they know to follow you? How do they know that they want the content that you're selling? So I always tell people, if you make $40 in your first month, you're doing better than most. One thing I always say about new accounts, if you don't have a lot of followers and then you don't have a lot of likes or a lot of content up, people will look at that price and say, I'm not going to waste this much money for this little bit of content. Especially if they don't know if this is a real thing or if you're going to continue it, you don't have that reputation to show people that it's worth it. So it's going to take a lot more work for you to convince them to follow you and to give you that money at the beginning than it will later on in life. So please be realistic with what you're expecting and be kind to yourself. So just a recap of things I would like you to consider before going into this. And I'll make other videos about tips and tricks and how to maybe be a little bit more successful at it. There is no right way to do it for every single person out here. But here are some ways that I found has been really helpful for me. So just to recap, how comfortable are you if people you knew found out? What will this cost you, your job currently and your future self? How much time do you actually have? And what are some realistic goals you'd like to set? If you've taken the time to consider these and you still think this is the right choice for you, then congratulations. You're about to enter an amazing community of hardworking, funny, lovely humans. And I really recommend to get to know them and to be kind to them and rejoice in the friendships you're about to make as well. And if you made it this far, please give me a little like and subscribe. Maybe ask a question in the comments so I can make future videos answering any questions that you all have. And I really appreciate you taking the time, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.